What's up, everybody? RedKnightRyan here, and what I want to do in this video today, it's really actually very late at night for me, but I wanted to talk about Gundam Unicorn Re-0096, the TV version of the OVA Gundam Unicorn. Gundam Unicorn, for those of you who don't know, I'll quickly recap, was an OVA series released in that started airing in 2010, and it was adapted from the novel of the same name. And it basically was 7 movies that went from 2010 to 2014. The last movie came out in 2014, episode 7. That was actually an hour and a half long, but that's what it was. It was an OVA series that was 7 episodes long, and it's love it or hate it. I happen to love it very much, and I will say it is my favorite series. You can see I have my perfect grey unicorn back there. I even have this Gundam blanket, this RX-0 Gundam Gundam blanket. And if I could, I'm wearing my YouTube persona blazer hoodie right now. But if I could, I'd be wearing the Gundam Unicorn themed uh, hoodie that's white with the red. I was gonna say Trans Jump. The red NTD Psycho Frame. That's what I was thinking. Psycho Frame bits on it. It's like a costume hoodie, and I love hoodies so much. I would love to get my hands on that hoodie. It's so hard to find. I can't find it anywhere. But anyway, besides the point. Um, so the episode was supposed to air on Sunday. So I guess it's Sunday in Japan because the episode's out and I just watched it. So it's of course streaming on Daisuki.net, just like Iron Blood Orphans was. I'm assuming it's going to be on Crunchyroll. Gundam Info has it, but again, even though it's the U.S., even though there is a U.S. version of it, you can't watch it in the States. I don't know what is up with that. Just watch it on Daisuki. Just don't bother with Crunchyroll or Hulu or whatever. Just go to Daisuki. They have it right when it airs in Japan, and it's already subtitled. And it's just go there. It's better that way. But I want to talk about the episode today, and there's really not too much to talk about, like story wise, because obviously this is a story that we already know what happens, so I can't give my impressions on like what direction I think the series is gonna go, because it's not like Iron Blood Orphans where it was like it's a new thing. It's like this is, I mean, it's a new thing, but it's been out for a while. We already know what happens to these characters and where they go and what sort of happens later in the series. So really, I'm just gonna be talking about the technical things about the series and sort of what they're doing with this, and that's pretty much it. So let's see. I have a little bit of a list here to go through. The length. So obviously, the OVA series was 7 episodes, and in total, it's like 7.5 to 8 hours. So that's a lot. And reporting from, I'm getting this information from Crunchyroll and Gundam Guy. Gundam Guy is the official blog for the store GG Infinite. They do Gundam stuff. Hiroyuki Sawano said that this is going to be a 6 month long theme. He's the composer for Gundam Unicorn. He also did Attack on Titan. He's an amazing composer. I love his music. But he said it's going to be like a 6 month long thing, and I did the math. That means that we're going to be getting about 4 episodes every month, which means it'll probably be about 24 episodes. And that's actually a pretty decent length for an anime. Most animes are that length. They're like 24 episodes long. So that means that there'll be 24 episodes, assuming. I guess I'll just say 25 at the most. And then also doing the math. In total, each one, let's just say, is 25 minutes long. It's going to be like maybe 9.5 hours, which means there's like an extra hour or so there of extra footage. And I mean, we did know that there was going to be extra footage in this. So right off the bat, that's really awesome. And I'm assuming that with all that extra footage, we're going to get to see stuff that we didn't get to see in the OVA. Of course, there's a ton of stuff in the novel that didn't make it to the OVA cut, such as Angelo's backstory. Full Frontal's backstory isn't really ever explained in the OVA, but I believe it is in the novel. I haven't actually read I read like a lot of the first novel, but it's very hard to find because obviously it needs to be subtitled because it's all in Japanese. And so I kind of lost the link. I read a lot of it and then lost the link, but so I need to read that again. But so yeah, so that extra hour will be great to put some extra footage in and show us some stuff that we didn't see in the OVA, some stuff that we desperately needed in that OVA. The OVA is amazing, and Unicorn's my favorite series, and I love it to death. But there was some stuff missing, and it would have been nice to just know Angelo's backstory. Just very quickly, Angelo, he's why is he super gay for frontal? it's kind of a bad joke, but it's true. He is. And Full Frontal, just like who is he, and how did he kind of get to where he was, and um, but anyway, and I'll throw this out real quick. There's probably spoilers in this. If you haven't watched Gundam Unicorn, don't watch this video because I will be talking about the shows, assuming that you have watched it already. So there'll probably be spoilers in this. Am I on the right track? I am. Okay. So yeah. So one of my concerns originally watching the episode was that every time I thought I saw new footage, it actually wasn't. Everything you see in this first episode is in the OVA. It's actually the first 20 minutes or so. Woo, excuse me, of the OVA is what episode 1 is, and I was thinking like, well, obviously doing the math, there has to be actually new footage, but I was starting to get the feeling of like, well, maybe they're just gonna throw in new animation, just kind of dispersed into the episodes, and so it'll make the OVA 24 episodes long, but you're not really getting anything new story-wise. You're not really going to learn anything new that you didn't already know. Because, that did flash through my mind at first, just because I was like, well, I haven't heard anything about them getting the cast back, all the voice actors and everything, even the Japanese ones. I mean, I know that it would probably be a lot harder to get the English voice actors back, but even the Japanese ones, I haven't heard anything about that. But I'm going to assume they have to. And the other reason for that is because the awesome thing about this is we get 2 versions. Just like with the OVA that released the English sub and the Japanese dub. I mean, what am I saying? The Japanese with the English subs and the English dub at the same time. They released at the same time. We're getting that for the TV series as well, which is pretty awesome. So if you go on daisuki.net, you'll have the option to watch it with either English subtitles and the Japanese voices, or you can watch the English dub, which is super, super nice. Which made me think that, like, I mean, obviously they have the entire OVA already. All they have to do is just kind of chop it up and it's pretty much done already. So that was my first concern. I was like, well, if they're gonna put new footage in, they can put new footage in, but just like add details to things, which they do add details. I'll get to that later. They do add details to things, and just new footage, like little bits of extra fighting here and there, or maybe some extra scenes of people walking around. And I was like, well, that's not necessarily bad, but like I want new scenes, like actual scenes with these characters talking and explaining things that we didn't know. So, so I'm just gonna assume that they are gonna get the original voice cast back, or at least maybe there's certain scenes where like maybe we're not gonna need maybe Banage won't get any new scenes, but like we need Full Frontal back. We need his voice casters. His voice is back from both the Japanese and American versions. But that was my first concern. But like I said, there wasn't any new animation in this first episode. There was just a touch-up, which was something I always noticed watching the first episode, because I've watched the entire series, Gundam Unicorn and the OVA, maybe 5 times now all the way through. First episode I've watched it maybe 8 times, because I do watch some episodes just on their own. But in that scene where he's at the end of episode 1, and he's in the cockpit, and he's got his hand, and he's crying because his father just died, and he goes, "Mother, I'm sorry," and he, pulls away, and you can see the palm of his hand, and then he grabs the joystick. His palm has never looked very good. It was just sort of, it was good enough that it was like, all right, that looks fine, but it was just very tan colored and not a lot of detail. For the OVA, I mean, for the TV series, they did actually go in there and they did redo that, and they put in detail, and so that's really cool. And then also him gripping the joystick thing, they added detail to his knuckles and at the top of his hand. And so I actually took a comparison photo of that, and I will probably have that up while I'm talking about it, while I was just talking about it, because I do have the OVAs available to me, so I was able to get the screenshots and compare them. But that really excites me because there aren't many errors with the animation like that, or things that they need to touch up. But the one that really does get me excited is, I believe it's episode 3. I want to say it's episode 3. No, it's probably episode 2 though. The unicorn is fighting, and its chin, which is really supposed to be white, was actually gray. The little collar of the unicorn is gray, and just it's a coloring error. It was just his chin is gray. So I'm really looking forward to seeing if they fix that and make it white. There aren't many errors in Gundam Unicorn the OVA, but when there are, they're very noticeable because the animation is so fucking good. Um, so let me see, what am I on now? Touch ups and future, right? So just talk about that. And okay, so let's talk about the first episode now. I had to do a little bit of a recut, so if I say something I already said, I'm sorry. But so, what do you see in this first episode? It's the first 20 minutes of episode one, but it actually, very oddly enough, starts off with the last scene, not the last scene, but the last part of episode one of the OVA, with Menager in the cockpit, and his father is in there, and he's obviously been shot, but it starts with him already holding his cheek, and it's getting all bloody, and he's like, you know, blah blah blah, and Menager's like, you can't say that to me now, it's not fair or whatever, and he goes, please forgive me, and he drifts out of the cockpit, and he goes, I wanted more. And then he, gets in, there's explosions, there's a battle breaking out in the colony, and there's an explosion. He gets engulfed in flames, and the cockpit closes. And then Benager, does his whole thing when he goes, Mother, I'm sorry, he grabs the joystick, and then, it goes, and then you see the unicorn's face, and the eyes go, like they normal Gundam eyes do, which is, I love when they do that. It does that, and then that's when it stops. And then it goes back, and it goes, okay, now we're going to go back to the beginning, where first Universal Century, you see Ricardo Marcinus and the explosion, and Siam finding the thing, and then you get the first 20 minutes of episode one, and so that's all you get for episode one. So I mean, again, it's nothing new if you've watched the series already. You already know what's going to happen. But that's the other thing I have to talk about is spoilers, and you go into this and you really. They expect that you've already watched the OVA, which is a little bit dangerous, just because from my point of view, I'm looking at it from the point of view of somebody who hasn't watched Gundam Unicorn before, and a lot of animes have a TV version first and an OVA version later, or some sort of an OVA later, which is just an extra little thing. To the unknowing viewer, they might just be like, oh cool, I'm just going to go watch Gundam Unicorn, and oh well, the TV version, that must be the right version. They're just going to start with that one. And that is wrong. I'm going to say this right now. If you're watching Gundam Unicorn for the first time, just go watch the OVA first. Go watch the OVA first. It's already done. It's already out there. And you're going to get pretty much the same experience. But watch the OVA first. Please watch the OVA first. Because while they're not major spoilers, the opening and ending theme, little cinematic, does spoil some things in the anime. At least what I would consider spoilers. And what I'm talking about is they're going to show you important mobile suits that you are not going to see until about halfway through the series. I'm talking about the Banshee. Pretty much the Banshee. But they're gonna show off the Shamblo. They show in the ending cinematic, they show Loni in the cockpit of the Shamblo, and then they actually show her dying. So it's like, well, great, you already know that there's a character that dies. It's like, they just throw that out there, and she's not a major character, but still, it's like, I wouldn't want to know that if I was watching this for the first time. When I watch anime, I like for everything to be pristine. I don't want to know anything. I want to just learn it all, even if it's just like, oh, well, something shows up later. It's like, nope, I want to figure it out on my own. So that's why, like, showing off the Banshee, to me, that's kind of like, why would you show me that now? Like, what if I didn't know that the Banshee was a thing? It does kind of lessen the impact of, like, oh, there's an evil unicorn Gundam out there, especially when it shows up for the first time. You're like, holy fuck. But they show the Banshee, they show Miss Loney dying. I call her Miss Loney. They show Loni dying. They actually show in the opening cinematic the end of the last episode with the Gundam Unicorn full armor with the green Psycho frame and the Banshee fighting the Neo Zeong. They show that, and that to me was like, no, that's something you shouldn't show, because that's something that when it comes out you're like, oh damn. But again, maybe that's not really technically a spoiler. They also show I believe it's the ending cinematic. They show the end of episode 7 where they're throwing up the psycho barriers to prevent the Grips colony laser to destroy the broadcast. and they actually show the unicorn crystallizing and its psycho frame just going, like that. And when Badontra's like becoming a pure new type or whatever that is, I didn't like that they showed that either. And they also do show Laplace's box, and I mean like actually what Laplace's box is. If you've watched Gundam Unicorn and you know what it is, which it's the charter that you actually see in episode 1, but of course you don't know that's what it is yet. No, you don't see it. No, you do. Ish. But they show that in the ending scene. They show the actual. And obviously, if you watched the last episode of Unicorn, when they're inside Scienvis' chamber and he has the big charter and it's just the spotlights on it and everything else is shadow, they show that, and then there's a little thing of it coming up and dancing around. It's like, what? So again, I'm just gonna say it. So they expect that you've seen the OVA already, if you're watching the TV show. So don't watch the TV show. Watch the OVA first. Of course, doesn't really help for me to tell you that because I'm also expecting that you've already seen the OVA. But if you're watching this and you know people that haven't watched Gundam Unicorn, tell them to watch the TV show first. But other than that, it's good. It's just more Gundam Unicorn, and it's my favorite series, so I really can't complain too much. I will admit though that this is my closing thought. I will admit a Gundam Crossbone anime I would have preferred. I like Gundam Unicorn, but I would like to see Gundam Crossbone as an anime. But anyway, that's all I have to say. I'm looking forward to seeing what the future animation that they add. I'm looking forward to seeing all the fixes to the animation in the future as well. And I'm just looking forward to watching Gundam Unicorn again because it is my favorite series. And I'm really looking forward to, if this fucking happens, obviously, we have to be getting model kit re-releases. We have to. We're already getting a new release of the Gundam Unicorn Full Armor with the red psycho frame. So, for those of you wanting a Neo Young, maybe we'll be getting a re-release. Who knows? And for me, liking hoodies, maybe we'll get a re-release of that Gundam Unicorn hoodie. I would love that. There's a Banshee one too if you like the Banshee. But anyway, that's all I have to say about Gundam Unicorn, the TV series. This went on a little bit too long, longer than I thought it would. But I can talk about Gundam Unicorn all the fucking time. I can go on and on and on. But anyway, thanks for watching, and I will see you all in the next video.